back in 2011, you held the title of a revenue engineer
Mm.
at Pedowitz.
Mm-hmm.
And the hottest buzzword title nowadays is the GTM Engineer.
Mm.
Was Pedowitz Group way ahead of the curve here in creating this revenue engineering role for you?
It's funny, that role was really the execution technologist. So we were the people who were like just in the tech. So the roles were like basically a PM. So you had the team structured as like a PM person, a strategist who said how to kind of map out the campaign, and then the execution person who like knew how to put that campaign together in whatever tool we were working with, right? So I started out as the revenue engineer, which is a person who knew how to kind of execute that campaign within the technology. And then I was having this conversation with Daryl, Ronald Gaines. It's like, where do we see kind of these roles manifesting themselves in the next 5 or so years? Like, will you still have this technologist role? A lot of us want to move out of technology to the strategist role. You know what I mean? Like, what is that going to formulate? Because, like, a lot of the tools are going to a lot of ease of use. It's like, click a button. You don't need to know how to code anymore like we used to know how to code. And you don't need to know how to do all these, like, fancy integrations and backend and FTPs and all this kind of stuff. You don't need to necessarily know how to do a lot of that stuff anymore, for some of them. So they're simplifying the tool, so we even need that person anymore. And I think going forward, I feel like I'm not sure you're going to need that deep technology knowledge, especially if tools end up like HubSpot, which I feel like I've trained my clients. Anybody can do that. Like, it's not that difficult of a tool to understand versus like a Marketo or Eloqua, which you definitely need some technology expertise in those platforms. I feel like they're simplifying the tools, but the operation, that process piece will never go away. It's like that is just the linchpin of marketing execution these days. You have to have that person who really understands those nuanced details of really making a campaign sing. And yeah, I don't ever see that role going away. I do see it expanding. If we can properly get MOPS people to understand what strategy really means. I feel like that conversation is always happening, but I'm like, we're missing what strategy really means. You don't mean strategy like that. You mean strategy in a different way. But because part of this is really wanting that role to grow and expand, because I know a lot of people want that role to grow and expand. But we really have to understand what strategy means. So I think the technology piece, I actually see it in the next 5 years sort of diminishing. Ironically, that's just because the technology is going to get simpler, but that operational piece will continue to grow.
I like the idea that whenever there's an engineer title, that you're actually building something, like you're building a campaign, or you're putting systems together, or in the traditional sense, you're coding. I think, and I don't know if you all know this, but I think the term GTM engineer is like more of like a pre-sales person.
Really?
But I don't know. Like when I was reading about it, and I could be wrong, but it was more of like either like a strategist or like pre-sales for companies. Do you all know what people are calling GTM engineer now?
Yeah, I was actually researching this too, Daryl, when I was thinking of doing an episode on this, and I was like, and everyone is freaking talking about this and putting their own spin on it. It's like, what is an AI agent? And
Right.
everyone is writing about the definition of it, and it's like, who cares what
Right.
the definition of it is? But I think for this, it's a bit more important. Like Clay is kind of thinking that the GTM engineers is like designing, scaling, revenue generating systems, researching prospects, building, maintaining, automating workflows. Like, a lot of it sounds like a sales revenue-ish, like RevOps type person. In a lot of cases, marketing ops too. I don't know. I think a lot of it is just like, hey, we haven't created a new job title in a while now. We had growth hacker. Now we have growth marketer. Like GTM engineer. Yeah, it sounds pretty good.
I just feel like it's a way to continue to consolidate tasks within a role. because I feel like that's also like what's happening a little bit. It's just
Yeah, I
like
feel that.
that's what I felt like revenue ops was. It's just like marketing ops plus sales ops plus like some just general sales, like Salesforce stuff. It's like, why don't we just consolidate all of this? And I understand it's not always nefarious. Like I understand it because like it all works together. So let's have somebody kind of manage this entire process. But also it's like some of these job descriptions are insanity about what they ask a one person to do and manage and take ownership of. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. The other, I think, cynical way that I looked at it, I look at it, I see it both ways, but the other cynical way is it's like rebranding jobs that historically like executives don't really care about and like making it cool, because there's so often ops people just so underappreciated. People don't even know what they do. So it could be these people that are like pioneers are trying to come up with different ways to get people to pay attention. So I can definitely see that. I'm very much in the boat of I think marketing ops is just going to evolve, and they'll evolve into a role that it's going to be easier to use the technology, but like stitching it together and finding a way to tie technology to support goals is like going to be the major one, and then how AI plays into it across the entire GTM. I think that's where marketing ops is going, and they might call it something different later. But, like Phil said, who cares? Who cares what they call it? Let's just get like our work done.
Yeah, I think there's always like a new trend coming out that like spurs this idea of creating a new job title, like AI in like different LLMs, and be able to plug LLMs into different tools is kind of reshaping the role of RevOps and marketing ops. And I feel like that's where the GTM engineer hype kind of came around. Like, oh, prompt engineering needs to be a big part of this, like using Clay or using an iPass, like having it on top of your data warehouse, like plugging in ChatGPT with like columns and census, and being able to connect APIs into your GTM stack. It's just like new buzzwords to say a lot of the same stuff as before, with like some new tools in there, because obviously we didn't have LLMs like back in the day. Trying to explain that to yourself, Moni, like 16 years ago, first role, like you're gonna get to use an LLM to help you in your marketing ops role.
Yeah, I mean, for some processy stuff, I would have loved it. Like some
Yeah.
documentation, it would have been amazing.
Yeah, I feel like the part I would have loved the most is that now, like with LLMs and AI tools, a lot of people in the company finally care about data quality. One person said it best, like garbage in, garbage out, and like everyone gets it right away. Like, we want to do something with AI. Our data is shit. Now more than one person in the marketing ops team can care about deduplicate data,
Exactly.
can care about ID resolution. Now we have like people supporting us on that
Absolutely.
venture.